Welcome to Lost in the Woods, a 15-day countdown to the worldwide release of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. In this series, I'm dissecting one game from the Zelda franchise every day with the goal of separating the core Zelda game elements from the fluff. I'll show you how Breath of the Wild is the culmination of 30 years worth of Nintendo defining, losing, rediscovering, and finally perfecting exactly what makes a Zelda game great. It was round 2 with Capcom running the Zelda helm, and whereas the two Oracle games felt conservative, the Minish Cap felt fresh, unique, and full. Nintendo must have granted a little more room to experiment, because the folks over at Capcom put together a solid and memorable handheld game. The story and marketing all revolved around the origin of Link and that funny green hat. It was the first time they tried to flesh out the history by putting a game into a deliberate location on a timeline. Believe it or not, because high-speed internet wasn't as widespread, the elaborate timeline theories hadn't gained much traction yet. Do you guys remember those times? Simpler times. So, with the Minish Cap firmly placing itself before all of the other games chronologically, it managed to capture the excitement of that prequel kind of mystery. But mostly it felt full because of how it expanded Link's arsenal of rad new items and abilities. First off, he had the ability to shrink down to the size of a pea. It also packed around a jar that could manipulate wind for no other reason than because it was cool and useful. And then he had a multi-use talking hat and much more. All of these fresh new items were used to expand on the existing Zelda formula, which of course was to use those items and abilities to solve puzzles and explore the linear plot line that progressively revealed the world to you one plot unlock after another. There was nothing fancy done with the formula here, but the dungeons and art direction are definitely worth checking out. In the previous handheld games, the dungeons tended to be made up of large rooms overlaid on top of each other with several puzzles in each room. It seemed that Capcom had a similar but different approach to how they made their dungeons. These ones tended to feel a bit more modular, with several rooms strung together specifically to teach you how to use whatever your new item was and how it could be used in an interesting way with the environment. The Minish Cap played around with the environment a whole lot more than any other game released previously. And then there's the art. I know I knocked some points off Capcom for reusing Link's Awakening's art assets for the Oracle games, but I'd say they redeemed themselves here. The power of the Game Boy Advance allowed for a closer, more free-flowing camera that didn't feel quite as choppy going from screen to screen all the time. For the handheld games, this was a huge step up in graphical fidelity, and they really took the time to make sure it was all shinied up just right. Yep, Capcom took the Zelda formula, polished it up some more, expanded Link's gameplay mechanics, and brought it all together in yet another fun and well-made entry in the Zelda series. Nothing hugely extraordinary, nothing tremendously breathtaking. Okay, I'm gonna get real for a minute. This point is a really frustrating spot in the series for me because this is like the glory days of Zelda. They're putting out a title every single year, and I fully realize that for a lot of you watching, this is your childhood era of Zelda games. Everything they had built, implemented, and iterated on had been really good. I'm not poo-pooing on the quality or funness of the games because Nintendo excels at making quality, fun games. These Zelda games are no exception. I loved playing the Minish Cap, but there was this deeply entrenched formula that they were following, a formula revolving around Zelda-related things. Items, dungeons, the inclusion of an overworld, music, green tunics, annoyingly quirky side characters, swords with magic powers, the works. But it's all so surface level. Where's that intrinsic love of exploration? Where's the exact opposite of Mario's linear approach? Where's the joy of discovering brand new locations for the first time, just because? Where's the meat? The truth is that those things were no longer part of the Zelda formula. The exploration aspect was that thing that got put in later. It was that thing you did to get from one plot point to the next, and the Minish Cap showed that they could make the path be interesting without needing to explore very much. No, Nintendo was lost in the woods for sure. They didn't know why the items, story, dungeons, or any other elements they put into their games worked so well. In their immediate blindness caused by the ever-thickening undergrowth, it seemed to them that the only way to make a better Zelda game was to make it harder, better, faster, stronger. In a series that was about 15 years old, the focus was on additions, rather than careful focus on a core purpose like Miyamoto had originally followed. Twilight Princess, the true successor to their crowning jewel, Ocarina of Time, was just around the corner. Nintendo would prove once and for all that they could make that game with all the Zelda things. A sprawling overworld, fantastic storyline, crazy items, and the most detailed art direction yet. Come back tomorrow and watch Nintendo try to blow their fans' ever-living socks off.